Good evening, welcome, and thank you for joining me. My name is Sibs Matiela. I am the host of the Private Property Podcast, and today we're here to talk about all things property as we usually do. But what's special about today is that we are live from the property show happening in Sandton, Johannesburg. If you are unable to make it, or you couldn't join us virtually from wherever you are in the world, we've decided to do you a very big favor. Go fetch everyone from the property show, bring them onto the podcast so that they can answer all of your burning questions and things that you could have learned if you were here. Right now, the guest who's joining me in studio is Marisia Robus, who is the owner of Gauteng Home Inspections. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And you?
I'm great. Tell me about what you do.
So I'm a property inspector and I do inspections for clients before they purchase properties. So I tell them what all the defects are so that they know what maintenance they have to do and if there are very serious problems with a property before they buy them. I then also do snag list inspections. When you've built a new property, you need to give the contractor a snag list and you need to ensure that your property is built according to national building regulations, NHBRC guidelines and the municipal bylaws. Now, as a home builder, you don't know your national building regulations, but I do, and I ensure that your building is built accordingly.
Tell me what a snag list looks like.
So a snag list will say that there is paint on the window frames, or this wall was built skew, or the windows were put in skew, or the geyser is maybe not installed according to regulations. Or in the case I had last week, the plumber actually cut some of the roof trusses to squeeze a very large geyser into the roof, and he never repaired the roof trusses. So now my client bought a brand new property thinking everything is fine, but the plumber cut the roof trusses and a 300-litre geyser is now lying on top of a damaged roof truss. So the problem with that is when that geyser comes through the ceiling, which it will, insurance will not pay because your house was not built according to building regulations and your roof trusses have been damaged.
Marisia, how important would you say this home inspection process is? I think it's an expense a lot of people would opt to skip just because of all of the things that go into purchasing a property in the first place. You think, oh, maybe the seller will disclose, or the construction people will say, no, maybe we made a mistake here, or, instead of covering up the crack in the wall so that you only discover it way down the line. What is the importance of actually prioritizing this cost as something that's quite necessary?
Unfortunately, a lot of times the sellers will paint a property before they put it on the market. And when I walk into a property and it's just been painted, I know my inspection is going to take at least an hour longer because I have to find out what are they hiding. If they've painted the ceiling, I know there were roof leaks. So I climb on top of the roof. I climb into the roof. I check the geyser installation. I check the roof trusses and everything. Because I'm an ITC, which is the Institute for Timber Construction, certified roof inspector, the only female roof inspector in the country. So I can give you proper information about the roof trusses. The other problem is that a lot of times property sellers might be renting out the property. They live overseas. They've never lived in the property. So although legally they have to give you a property disclosure form, they've never lived in the property for the last 2 years. So how do they know? And then unfortunately, some sellers will just hide behind the fact, oh, I didn't know. So it's very important to know what you are in for, especially a first-time home buyer and a property investor. And if you're buying a big property or building a house, because you must remember, as a property buyer, especially first-time buyers and as well as property investors, you are being bullied by your emotions. Because a first-time home buyer, you're all excited, you're going to have wonderful parties, you can see the garden, the kids are going to love it. And you don't look behind the couch, oh, there's a crack, what is that all about? You're all excited. As a property investor, you can just see the money you're going to make, and you don't take one step further. You are secondly being bullied by the seller, because the seller says, there's nothing wrong with my property. My property is fine. There's just a little maintenance to be done. And then thirdly, you're bullied by the agent because the estate agent said, no ways, the seller will never accept a property, an offer that low. And no ways, you have to put in an offer now. There's somebody else who wants to put an offer in. So they are bullying you. Step back. Do a property inspection. You then have the option. Either you can cancel the deal. If I find broken roof trusses, or I find a concrete slab that is cracked, or structural cracks, or major damp, you can decide I'm walking away or I'm renegotiating the price. You must also remember that as a home buyer, you don't know your national building regulations. So if there is not a fire door between the house and the garage, and a fire breaks out in the garage, insurance won't pay because your house is not built according to national building regulations. If there is not a fire wall between the house and the garage, insurance won't pay. If your valleys on your roof is blocked, if your gutters are blocked and you have water push in under the roof tiles, insurance won't pay for roof leaks because you haven't done maintenance. Your fine print in your insurance document clearly states they don't pay for subsidence, which is structural cracks. They don't pay for rising damp, and they don't pay if you haven't done maintenance and if your building is not built according to national building regulations. So unless you want to go and study your national building regulations and make sure you know everything, employ me. I will do the job for you.
I mean, I believe you, but what I'm also getting a sense of is that at the end of the day, this just saves you money, right? Employing you and saying, Marisia, come and check the leaks, check the mold, check the whatever. At the end of the day, when you spot those things that I wouldn't have been looking for, in the long run, that saves me from a claim that now wouldn't have been paid out because I don't know the rules. I'm too busy doing my job, trying to wrangle enough funds to put down a deposit and do all of these other things.
Exactly. And you're dreaming about the wonderful life you're going to have in this property. And you end up with a major, major problem. So yes, this will definitely save you money, or it will save you heartache that you might end up walking away from the property and just say, there are too many things here. It's going to cost me too much money. I will find another property. And what I find with a lot of my clients, if they walk away from the first property I inspected for them, when they go and view properties, they view the properties with a different eye because, oh, that's what that is. That is damp. Oh, that might be a structural crack. And they start asking the correct questions. So it's a very good education as well.
Speaking of asking the correct questions, what do you think the main questions are?
The main questions on a building is, number one, do you have approved building plans? Very important. Secondly, if you're buying into a complex, make sure you get the complex's financial statements and also get the seller's rates and taxes. And if you're buying into a complex, levy statements and check everything. And then ask the person, have you got any structural cracks? Do you have damp damage? When did you paint the house? Because if they tell you, no, we painted the house 2 years ago and there's nothing wrong, then you're okay. But 99% of the time, if they painted the house the last month or two, you know they painted it before they put it on the market, and you know they're hiding something.
No, I'm not going to buy painted houses. I'm going
No,
to
you
look
don't.
for houses that do not look painted at all so I can see all of the drama that's happening.
That's it. You see all the warts and everything, and you then know how to repair it. But I also do maintenance inspections. So for townhouse complexes, property investors, but in your own personal house, I find people don't know how and when to do maintenance, and then they don't do maintenance at all.
Yeah.
I'm also recording a maintenance program, which will be available later this year, so that the viewers can then purchase the program, look at leisure and say, okay, I need to do maintenance on my gutters. Let's go and watch the gutter chapter. And in there, I give you all the details, how to do maintenance, what products to use, what products not to use. For instance, there's a product that everybody buys to repair cracks. It is the worst product because it's rigid and it cracks in the middle of that repair again. There's a specific product you must use. Remember, you can't put diesel into a petrol car.
Yeah.
Just like that, horses for courses. There are certain products that you must use and other products make sure you know what the product is used for and use it for the correct way.
I don't think anyone considers that. You just go to builders or wherever you're going and you say, I've got a crack in the wall, give me something. How much is it? You do the comparison and you take the cheapest one and you leave.
And that is the problem. I have a few products which I recommend for, especially like for damp. In the shower, if your grout is falling out or you retile, you've got to make sure that you waterproof the shower properly. And then there's a German product called Sika. It is expensive, but it is the best. You mix it into your tile glue and into your grout, and it will last longer. So the same with paint. Some of the very well-known paint brands are guaranteed for 12 years. Okay, so you end up paying for a 25-litre drum. You maybe pay 500 Rand more. But I would rather pay 500 Rand more
for a guarantee.
I don't have to paint the window frames every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I can paint them every 10 to 12 years. To me, it's a no-brainer. So it's very important to make sure that you use the correct product.
How often should people be doing maintenance on their properties?
Every weekend. Because there's always something to be done. But in the reality of things, in our household, the first weekend of June, my husband and I spend replacing the silicone around the bath and the basin and the zinc, and check all the door handles and the hinges on the cupboards and those type of things. Those type of things you do once a year. If you don't check the hinges on the built-in cupboards and the kitchen units, eventually the cupboard starts sagging and eventually the hinge will tear out.
Yes.
Now you've got to put big screws in and they stick out on the other side and it's awful. So if you do regular if you see a door hinge is hanging, adjust the hinge. It's a half-a-minute job. Adjust the hinge and it's not going to pull out. If your door is getting stuck, if it rattles, adjust the striker plate. A lot of times I get to a property and the people say, I don't know how to do it. I've got a Leatherman in my boot. I go fetch my Leatherman, adjust the striker plate.
Done.
There you go. Your door's not rattling anymore. So little tips like that. And did you know there's a little thing that you can replace in your geyser? It's this size, costs 167 Rand. If you replace it every 3 years, your geyser will never burst.
What? What is it called?
It's called a self-sacrificing anode. You screw it in, screw it out every 3 years and your geyser won't burst.
Okay.
So those are the type of tips and details I give people when I do property inspections for them.
How did you come into this? You just said you're one of the only women, if
I
not
am the only woman.
The only
Yes.
woman who's climbing into people's ceilings and saying, hey guys, something's happening here, figure it out.
Yes.
How did you come into this industry?
So my father had a construction company for 38 years and I worked with him in our construction company for 12 years. And when I started working for him, he started building a house that day and he said to me, you will go to site every day. And some days I spent the whole day on site and he would say to me, the plasterer is doing that wrong. And he would explain to me why. And he would say to me, okay, they've dug the foundations, go back to the office, go and measure how much concrete must we order. I'm like, what? But he taught me. So from the ground up, I learned everything about construction. So when I do an inspection, if there's a crack, I know what either the plasterer or the bricklayer did wrong behind that crack and why there is a crack. Do you know that there are 15 different types of cracks?
No.
There are 15 different types of cracks.
A crack is a crack.
No, it's not.
It's one of 15.
There are different reasons for every crack and different ways to repair them. So my father taught me through construction, and then when he became too old to run a site, we closed the construction company and we started Gauteng Property Inspections. Because my father's knowledge was unbelievable, we didn't want to let it go to waste. So I worked with him doing inspections for 3 years, and then I started doing inspections on my own. So I am a NABISA Master Certified Inspector, which is the National Association for Building Inspectors of South Africa, and then an ITC Certified Roof Inspector. The only property inspector in the country with those certifications, and as I say, the only female property inspector and the only female roof inspector in the country.
Listen, before I let you go, how do we get more females into the space?
Unfortunately, we don't have a training course at the moment. I was part of NABISA, and for 2 years, we developed a training course for building inspectors. But we are still waiting for QCTA to approve it. We are pushing them at the moment. I've recently been appointed as an executive director of NABISA.
Okay.
And we are pushing to get the qualification approved. As soon as it's approved, we can get people to train them and get them into the space to learn. But the most important thing, I have a lot of people come to me, I want to be a property inspector. And the first thing I say, do you know your building regulations? Because if the only way you can do a proper inspection for somebody is you must know what something looks like when it is right. How can you say that is wrong if you don't know what it looks like when it is right? So you need to know your building regulations, and you need to know what happens in a house, and that is going to cause problems in a year, that is going to cause problems in 2 years. So you need to learn your regulations and learn about maintenance and so on.
Marisia, I actually can't wait to speak to you again. I have to let you go right now, but we will definitely pick this conversation up
Fantastic.
again. How do people find you? You only operate in the Gauteng region.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I operate all over the country. I'm actually currently supervising construction on 260 houses in Nelspruit.
Wowee.
A month ago, I was in Bloemfontein and Mafeking and all over. So I travel all over, but they can reach me at gautenginspect.co.za.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Marisia Robus, who is the owner at Gauteng Home Inspections. We need to talk some more, but that's all I can bring you right now. Look, I will have another episode for you tomorrow, live direct from the property show happening in Sandton, Johannesburg. For now, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again tomorrow.